We have arrived to day 3 of our Dada Digital Ladies Open, which is the final round. As you can probably tell by the title of the video, today is going to be a very interesting day to say the least. But you know what? That's part of the reason why I share the things that I do. It's to hopefully help you guys enjoy golf more, but also realize that it's such a frustrating game and we're all not perfect and we can only do our best every single day. So we start here on hole 1 where I missed my shot to the right and I ended up being in a pretty bad lie and ended up hitting what obviously wasn't a good chip shot. So left myself with about this 25 footer left for par. And I think you can tell by my reaction how surprised I was at how short that ended up. It might not look as far from this direction, but that's still about a 10 footer left for bogey. So it is pretty difficult in my opinion to leave a 25 feet putt 10 feet short. So it just goes to show how interesting these greens are out here and how difficult they are to read, especially when they're into the green, uphill and playing at a speed of 7.4. So unfortunately, that meant the 3 jab on the first hole, which was a double bogey. You can tell from my reaction already, that's the kind of day it's about to be. We move on to the next hole though. We've still got 17 holes to play. We've just got to keep focused and hopefully try to make some shots back. So we've got this second hole, which we know that if we hit the fairway, we're going to have some kind of decent shot into this green and a decent look at it with a mid to short iron, depending on the pin position. The green here definitely isn't easy to hit though, it's pretty undulating, so I was happy to have a pitching wedge into the green. It was a front pin today, so I knew that I needed to carry it all the way there and hopefully give myself a good look at it. So I ended up hitting a good shot, which left me in a good position with about 10 feet to make my birdie on the second hole and hopefully get one back after a double bogey start. So after a nice roll there, we managed to secure the birdie on the second hole, which made us only 1 over for the round, which is definitely better than 2 over after 2. So we move on to the next hole, which is a par 5, which is another opportunity for birdie. The last 2 days we were not able to get this 2-1 to the green, so today we kind of had the intention to want to do that. I hit a good tee shot. Unfortunately, it was a bit right, which meant that it was going to be further from the hole and most likely wasn't going to be one where I could go for this green again. Ended up running out of fairway into the rough, so that meant that it was just a layup shot here. Hitting a 6 iron, trying to get myself within a good wedge distance into this green, something that I would be comfortable hitting and hopefully hitting close. So ended up leaving myself inside 100 yards, which was pretty ideal. The pin position was tucked right, so we knew that we needed to hit a good one here. I was going with a full 54-degree wedge here and just trying to stick this one pretty close. And I hit a good shot there. It actually ended up being too good and ended up being a little bit over the pin, as you can tell from this video. But it was still a good look here for birdie on the third hole. Thought I hit a good roll there, but unfortunately left it short again. I think that especially as the days go on, with obviously over 100 people playing the greens and more people walking on it, and just with all the rain that we've been getting, it's actually getting substantially slower over the days. But it's actually really hard to adjust to when you are feeling like you have to kind of hit the golf ball, hit the putts versus having to roll them. So it's definitely something that I think you can tell that I struggle with in this tournament. So for this hole, we've got the par 3, pin tucked right, just trying to hit a good 7 iron here and hopefully give ourselves another look at it, which we were successful and able to do. So here is our next chance for birdie. So I was happy to be able to get that to the hole, but unfortunately it was a little bit short still because it didn't hold the line, so a tap-in par on that hole. So if you've seen my other videos on this hole, I've been struggling every single day with the tee shot. I think it just did not suit my eye, so I decided to go with a 3-wood here today, just to hopefully get myself on the left side of this fairway versus on the right, which is where I've been the last 2 days. And I did end up hitting a good shot. Unfortunately, I just got caught a little bit by that rough there, so I had a little bit of an awkward lie where the ball was sitting on top of the rough. So at 131 yards there, trying to hit a pitching wedge, but I knew that there was a good chance that I was going to go under the ball, so I gripped down a little bit, but it still went a little bit shorter than I would have liked it to, just because I kind of hit the grass more than I hit the ball. So I ended up leaving myself with a pretty long putt here. Knowing how slow these greens are, I knew that I had to hit this pretty firm, and I actually hit it with decent distance. It's just that it broke a lot more from the left to right than I was expecting it to, so I left myself with about a 4-footer left for par. And unfortunately, I think you can tell from my reaction, I knew once it left the face that it was not going in the hole because it just bounced offline to the right. So unfortunately, that's a bogey again on the 14th hole. So we have no choice but to move on to the 15th hole. And we have another par 4, so this is another chance. A short one, trying to hit this down the fairway, making sure that we aim at that small tree out there. The last 2 days, this hasn't been a super great hole for me as well. Haven't really hit the green out here, so just trying to get myself on the fairway to give myself a better chance at hitting this green. So although I did hit the green, I actually pulled my shot a little bit, and that's why I ended up quite far from the hole. This was probably about a 30-footer for my birdie putt here. Again, trying to hit this firm, but as you can tell, left it quite substantially short again. And at this point, I was just getting very frustrated, as you can tell, because I feel like I'm hitting it so firm, and literally my intention in my head is to make sure that I get the ball there, but I'm still leaving the putt substantially short and giving myself way too difficult par putts. So that was definitely starting to get on my nerves a little bit, as I think you can tell, but I think it's also accumulation of literally doing that for the last 3 days. So this is like, I don't know, my 40th hole and I'm still putting it short. So I either need to work on being able to adjust better, especially when the greens are slowing down from all the rain, especially when they're slowing down during the round. And I also definitely need to be able to adjust when the greens are that slow. So of course the green conditions here are not perfect, so I can't expect to be making every single putts, but I think I should be able to do a better job of adjusting to speed. So we managed to hit the green on this par 3, left ourselves with this 24-foot putt for birdie. And it's quite amazing to me how when the greens are this slow, they're breaking that much, because normally when the greens are kind of bumpy and slow, you take a little less break because you want to hit firmer, but somehow they're still breaking quite substantially, so still left myself with about a 3-feet putt for par. Luckily, we were able to make this one, so we move on to the next hole, which is a par 5. So this isn't really a 2-shot par 5 for me. I would have to hit it pretty substantially right off the tee, and obviously a solid shot, but I did not hit it right enough, so I still had quite a bit of a distance, so just decided to go my 3-wood. Hit a decent shot there, left myself inside 60 yards here. So the pin position today was in front, and I had to carry a bunker there, so it wasn't an easy pitch shot here. I was a bit on a downhill lie, so I knew that I wasn't going to get much spin out of this. So just trying to make sure that I clip it and just make sure that I get good contact with the ball, which I was able to do, and left myself in a good position here with a good look for about a 6-footer for birdie. So we were able to get one back there as we moved down the 18th hole. This is a par 4. Again, it started raining a little bit again, so the weather this week has definitely been kind of weird. I think a typhoon was blowing in as well, so that's why it's been raining on and off the entire week. So we managed to successfully hit the fairway on this one, which makes this hole a little bit easier. Once you hit the fairway, we have some kind of short club into this green, so I only had a pitching wedge into this green. And unfortunately, I didn't catch it good, and it just ended up being too far right. And as you can see, if you saw on the right side of the screen there, it just took a big bounce right. Ended up not being in a great lie because it was kind of sitting down in the rough. So I just wanted to make sure I get good contact on this shot. Unfortunately, it just ended up being a bit slower than I was expecting it to. Out of the rough, I thought it was going to shoot out a bit more, so I left myself with about a 4-foot putt left for par. So definitely not a gimme, but also usually these kind of putts I'm really comfortable with. I mean, most of the time you don't take anything more than like around the hole unless you're on a pretty severe break. And again, I left the putt short, so I think you can obviously tell that the frustration is definitely starting to set in, because I think in the span of 3 days, I've probably already left like 10 putts inside 4 feet short or just missed them, which is definitely not normal for me because those are kind of my strengths. I usually make almost 95 to 100% of those putts. So I think it's a combination of just that frustration, as well as obviously just I think I was also getting pretty tired at this point, and just I was definitely getting more frustrated than I normally do on a normal round. So yeah, well, all we can do is we have 9 holes to play, so let's just see what we can do in the remaining 9 holes. So definitely left that pitching wedge a lot further from the hole than I would have liked it to, but it was still a birdie chance, and it was downhill, which actually was great for me because at least on the downhill putts I didn't feel like I would have to smash it as hard. Just took a little bit too little break and again left it a bit short, so tap and par here as we move on to the next hole. So the next hole we've got a par 4. Again, just try to hit the fairway and hope we get a good lie, and that's going to give ourselves a good chance to hopefully get one close. So the ball ended up being quite below my feet, similar to where I was in the first round, if you guys remember that video. So I knew that I wanted to make sure this time that I was aiming far enough left, and I actually hit a really good shot here, good contact from the lie that I had, and gave myself a good look here, probably had about 10-12 feet for birdie. And again, I left it short. So I mean, guys, if you guys cannot see the frustration in my round right now, like sometimes you guys leave comments and be like, Jen, you should just be putting harder. I mean, guys, with all my might, I was really trying to putt it as hard as I possibly could. I just could not get the ball to the hole. So what can you do about it? So we have the next hole, which is this par 3. Today it's been 167 over a slope, so I was hitting a 6 iron because I was trying to make sure that I carried it about 160 to make sure I flew that slope, but I actually flew the entire green, and I don't know, maybe I was frustrated and I had a little bit extra power, but I left myself not in a great spot here, thinking that with the downhill slope it's going to roll out quite a bit, but it did not. So I left myself with about an 8-foot putt for par, which was definitely not ideal. And I hit a good putt there, but again another miss. So I think part of why this round was so frustrating as well is that my short game was really not showing up for me, and normally my chipping and my putting are 2 things that I can rely on. But yeah, I think that's just why it was extra frustrating, because I felt like I wasn't able to predict what was going to happen with the chipping, which is usually something that I'm really good at. And with the putting, I just had no idea what was going on there. Like I couldn't get the line right, I couldn't get the speed right. So yeah, I think that just added to the frustration. But anyway, we have a short par 4 here. Trying to stick one close, ended up running out of fairway into the rough, so it wasn't an easy shot. But I ended up still leaving myself on the green with a decent look here, so we still had a chance. So trying to hit a good putt here, trying to make sure I get it to the hole, which we were still not successful with, but it's a tap in par. You know, at this point, looking at myself playing this round, you just have to laugh. You know, sometimes you just, in the moment in time, you just get so frustrated, but just looking at yourself playing, it's almost, you just have to laugh. So we managed to make a good birdie there, moving on to the next hole, which is this difficult par 3. The wind is helping today, so it's kind of tricky because this green, it's all down green, so when you land on the green, it tends to take a very firm bounce. With the pin being in front today, you wanted to make sure that you kind of kept it in the front portion of the green. So I was trying to hit a soft 6 iron here because I didn't want to have the same thing that happened on the previous par 3, which when I flew it over. And I hit a really good shot, but it just ended up being like a yard too short. So Unfortunately, it just came backwards rather than going forward, so it left me just a little bit short of this green. So I felt like this was again a pretty simple chip by all means for me, because it's just, I mean, not to be boastful, but this is just the kind of shots that I really love hitting, and usually they're the things that I can rely on. But unfortunately, again, I can't predict when it's going to run out and when it's not going to. So I left myself again with like a 4-foot putt left for par, which unfortunately again we missed. So honestly, even though at this point in time I'm literally 3 over par, like you can see how many putts and how many of the bogeys were literally just by dumb mistakes. And I think that's why it was so frustrating, because even though I was not hitting it perfectly, probably in any other situation I would still be right around even par. Like I've already made 3 birdies at this point, and considering I started with a double bogey, how many of those were just simple mistakes where we missed short putts and made bogeys. So I just felt like this was one of those rounds where I just couldn't get anything going. So yeah, it was definitely very frustrating, because you feel like you're not playing that badly, but then all the mistakes are like unenforced errors. So I think it's really funny if you look at this putt. Like obviously once I putted it, I kind of looked like I was like, oh no, because I felt like I hit that so hard, especially with the rain and everything starting again. I knew that I needed to hit this firm, and I just started laughing because I thought I hit that so hard and I wasn't even a feet past the hole. So it just goes to show, like, it's funny because you almost have to know in your head that you need to putt it hard. You know that it's into the green. You need to know when it's uphill, when it's going to be extra slow. But then once you putt, you almost have to get out of your own head and just hit a putt that you would never ever hit, because your brain is telling you like there is no way you need to hit it that firm. But yeah, it's almost one of those things where you have to go against yourself. Like your brain is telling you shouldn't hit that firm, but you have to hit it that firm. So yeah, it's quite funny how crazy this game is and how different conditions can affect the way that you play. So we've reached the final hole, where you know that when you're playing, sometimes at some point you're really just like, please just take me out of this misery. I wanted to hopefully finish with a birdie here, so we successfully hit the fairway, which was step 1. And then we had a pitching wedge, which we did successfully hit the green, but unfortunately we left it way further from the pin that we would have liked to, which left us with another putt. And you already know that when we were here, our main thing was we were not going to leave this short. This was uphill, it was downwind, but we didn't care because it was uphill and I was 100% going to get that to the hole. And this time I'm laughing because after 18 holes, I actually hit it too hard for the first time ever. So you know what, this was the last putt to end this tournament, to end this round, to finish it with a par. So we finished it on a good one and we're able to go home and call it a day. So that's the end of this tournament vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it, enjoyed my frustration, enjoyed watching me suffer through this round, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next one.